There are a few commonly held beliefs about relationships that I've come to challenge. It's often said that before getting married, a woman believes her partner will change, while the man is certain that his fiancée will remain the same sweet and charming person forever. In my case, it was quite the opposite. Harper and I had been together for nearly 2 years, and during that time, we shared a connection unlike any I'd experienced before. We truly understood each other, and there were no major arguments between us. I had never felt more certain about anyone in my life. After giving it a lot of thought, factoring in my 30 years of life experience, I realized it was time to make things official. I bought a ring. Harper was over the moon when I proposed. She quickly updated her relationship status to fiancé and couldn't hide her excitement. I could almost see the vision of her future wife persona in her eyes, the responsibilities, the obligations, and of course, the change in lifestyle. At 27, it felt like the right time for her to start taking things seriously. The partying would have to take a back seat. Or so I thought. Then one Friday evening, Harper came to me with her latest idea. The girls and I are going to the club tonight. Here we go again. I didn't say anything at first, though I wasn't thrilled. Still, it was the few weeks leading up to our wedding, a transitional time. I figured I'd let it slide. It was a special night after all. She gave me that look, the one that made it impossible to say no. "All right," I said. "Call me when you're done, and I'll pick you up, but no later than 2 a.m. deal?" She promised me they'd dance for a bit and head home. I wasn't too worried. I'd been to enough of her parties to know they'd order some champagne and dance the night away. It seemed like any other club outing, nothing extraordinary. But life, as it often does, had other plans. At 11:40 p.m., my phone rang. It was still early, and I wasn't expecting anything unusual. But then I saw an unfamiliar number on the screen. "Good evening," a cheerful male voice greeted me. I was confused. "Hello," I replied slowly, trying to place who this might be. The man introduced himself as a police officer, and I almost dropped the phone. By the time he finished explaining why he was calling, I felt lightheaded. "You can come and pick up your girlfriend," the officer said. Then he told me that Harper and 3 of her friends had been causing a ruckus at the club. What started with a dispute with another patron escalated when a waitress tried to intervene, and one of the girls lashed out. While they got away with just a few scratches, the victims reported the incident to the authorities. I quickly headed to pick Harper up, my mind racing. I wondered how embarrassed she must have been. Strangely, a small part of me thought there might be a silver lining. Maybe after such an embarrassing episode, my fiancée would finally settle down and become the person I always believed she could be. But those little dreams quickly folded up and died the moment I arrived. When I walked into the club, it was far from the girly, fun atmosphere I had imagined. A guy standing near the front desk caught my eye, and I thought he might be one of Harper's friends. But no, he called out my fiancée's full name, and the reality of the situation hit me hard. We stood there for a moment, sizing each other up while staff members watched in expectation. After a long silence, the guy and I were filled in on the full story. It turned out that Harper, in her drunken stupor, had made an unwise call. When the authorities asked who to contact, she gave them 2 numbers, mine and another one for her lover, assuming I wouldn't be available. That was the behavior of a lady, or as I prefer to think of it now, sheer laziness. The officers, perhaps enjoying the spectacle of the situation, had called both of us. Maybe they even hoped for some drama. But there we were, me and this guy Joseph, standing in front of each other like 2 stags locked in a staring contest, neither of us able to say a word, let alone fight. It turned out Joseph was Harper's ex. They had been together before we started dating, and just before this incident, they had reconnected. They met for lunch, caught up, and somehow ended up in each other's company. Joseph was a busy guy and didn't see Harper much, but apparently they met a few times a month. I had no idea. Harper had apparently told him about me, about how she missed him, and about my failed marriage proposal being the reason for their breakup. It was almost laughable. After an awkward 5-minute conversation, which felt more like a chess match than anything resembling a heart-to-heart, Joseph and I turned and walked away. A few more words were exchanged outside, but in the end, we parted ways without so much as a handshake. I called Harper's dad, explained the situation, and asked him not to worry. I didn't want anything more to do with his daughter. At first, he sounded bewildered, but after a pause, he collected himself. "Let her stay in the drunk tank for the night," he said, his voice filled with anger. "Maybe it'll knock some sense into her." Then he hung up. I drove home, my mind racing. How did I miss all of this? How did I not see the cheating? Why did I believe for even a second that she would change? And most painfully, why did I waste 2 years of my life on someone who clearly didn't value me? 2 days later, Harper called, acting as if nothing had happened. "Are you out of your mind?" she shouted. "You left me in that horrible place. Do you know how awful it smelled?" I was unfazed. "I don't fight with drunks in clubs," I replied and hung up. Barely a minute later, she called again. "Wait, I'm sorry. I overreacted. I'm just really stressed." "Honey, how are you?" she asked, her voice soft. Before she could say more, I cut her off. "How's Joseph?" I asked, my tone cold. There was a long pause before she finally stammered. "I don't." She struggled, but couldn't explain herself. A week later, I heard from someone we both knew that Harper had found another guy and moved in with him. Well, I can only wish him the best of luck. He's got a tough road ahead, learning all about betrayal, bad habits, and behavior that's anything but decent.